Well, Dragon Folk, the new Kayo deck is soon to be released on May 3rd, and a lot of people in the Flesh and Blood community, at least I should say a lot of people in the Flesh and Blood community, are having quite a bit to say about it. So let's go ahead and talk about what I think about the deck itself and get into some detailed points about why I still think it's a good buy for new players. Welcome on in, everybody. It's always great to see your face here. Welcome to more Flesh and Blood drama talk. And by drama talk, I'm not going to talk negative about anything today. I don't like to talk negative about the card games I like to play. It's the whole reason why I stopped talking a lot about Magic the Gathering, and it's why I started playing things like Flesh and Blood, because I have positive things to say about Flesh and Blood. So, without further ado, I wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about the Kayo Armory deck that is going to be released and what people are saying about it and my own personal thoughts on the product itself. As I'd stated previously, that I believe that it is a really, really great product. I believe that it holds true to what it is supposed to be. And we'll go over every single detail here, but I have some points that I wanted to touch on before going over the entirety of the concept. So, first, let's talk a little bit about entry cost. So you're a new player entering into a LGS and you see a bunch of people looking to play a game called Flesh and Blood. They're all playing Flesh and Blood at their Armory for Thursday nights, right? And they're playing Classic Constructed and everybody's having a fun time and there's like 6 people there and you're all just kind of chilling and having a good time and it's not Magic. So as a new player, you go up to these people. Maybe if you don't have social anxiety like myself, you go up to them and you go, hey, how do I play this game that you're playing? This looks really, really cool. I'd love to try it out. And as a established player, you can go, well, Tony over there, you can go talk to him. He will sell you a Armory deck, which is for $40. It gets you a 60 card deck that comes with all the equipment you'll need and the hero card, and you'll be able to enter into this event tonight if you really wanted to. So for $40, you can get into the game easy peasy. You don't have to worry about buying expensive equipment, legendaries, fableds. You don't have to worry about optimizing your deck to the best of its ability. You as a new player to Flesh and Blood who know nearly nothing about the game decide to pick up this $40 deck. Already, we're at a point where you now have somebody who has spent money on Flesh and Blood, and it's their first time getting in. Shoot, I'd buy it for them if $40 was too much. I'd buy it for them if it meant getting them into the game. That's what I'm about. That's the kind of person I'm about. Now we look at the deck itself. In the deck, there are a whole bunch of exclusive cards specifically for this new Armory deck. And that moves our point to the reprints and the actual deck contents. And our deck contents are pretty good. A lot of the cards from what I've seen are based off of Daniel Correas's top 8, or really top 4, the quarterfinal deck list that Daniel Correas had done in the Pro Tour Los Angeles. And included in that deck is also several new cards to the game you can only find by buying this deck. And the cards have a decent amount of power to them. I don't believe that they're all powerful. I do believe that quite a few of them are powerful. But for the most part, a lot of it is bulk that you'd find in most other decks. Rares and commons are used in high-level games. So you're going to see rares and commons inside of your Classic Constructed decks. Now, there are more Majestics that a lot of people, I think, expected to have reprints in this set, such as Blood Rush Bellows or Beast Within or any of the really powerful M's that came from heavy hitters. But honestly, I know exactly why they didn't print them in this set. Because why print a bunch of Blood Rush Bellows if you could just play Savage Sash, the new chess piece that allows you to pretty much present Blood Rush Bellows kind of turns with its own ability. You also have Run Roughshod, which is the new blue that runs in there. And that's incredibly popular because it's a 1 for 5 that costs you nearly nothing. It could cost you 0 if you activate Savage Sash. And it also is a 6 in and of itself if it gets discarded, and it blocks for 3. So it does everything that you already want it to do. It's a cheaper Wrecker Romp in Kayo because all of his power is +1 when it's not on the combat chain. And overall, I think that's the concept. I think a lot of these new cards in the deck, as well as some of the cards like Wreck Havoc, are there to replace some of the power Majestics that you'll see in Daniel Correas' deck, for instance. And I do believe that while some of the costs of these M's are easily attainable and could have been put inside the deck, overall, they did not want LSS, the company behind Flesh and Blood, Legend Story Studios, did not want this deck to be too crazy. You're always able to get a 6. Your whole deck contains 6s, which means that anytime you need to discard a 6, you are going to discard a 6. That is the whole concept. So already it's tuned to do exactly what Brute wants to do, which is discard a 6. That card may say it only has 5 power, but in KO, his hero ability has it say that it has +1 power, which means it's a 6 outside of the combat chain. This is incredibly important to do the thing that new players need when they come into a new game, which is learn how to play the hero. That's all this deck needs to do, is to teach the player how to play the hero, or even the game in general, right? You've got cards that defend really well, like Rallying the Rear Guard. You've got attacks that are incredibly powerful. You have the concepts of go-against with Wild Rides. You have cards that don't block, which you now need to, properly learn how to block better. But that's where all this equipment comes in, because you have a Temper 2 chest piece, a Temper 2 head piece, Battle Worn 1 gloves, and Battle Worn 1 legs. So where you don't have block value on your cards, you have them on your equipment pieces. This is very good to just kind of get into the mindset of learning how to play it. Worst case scenario, if somebody's looking to upgrade the deck to look almost identical to Daniel Correas' deck, which, mind you, last I checked is like an $850 deck if you wanted to get it card for card. Instead, you're spending $40 and maybe every now and again spending like $15 to $45 to upgrade the deck as you continue your journey into Flesh and Blood. You do not want to be overwhelmed with high power decks. This is something that I very much so have gotten into, and a weird tangent, but back when I was playing World of Warcraft, I would sometimes get into a private server because I couldn't play the actual game. I would play private servers, but when I'd get into the private server, they had boosts to get you to the max level immediately. You log in and you'd immediately get boosted to the max level so you can do whatever you wanted. That was what a private server was like. And I know that I'm just talking jargon at this point, but that actually overwhelmed me as a player of an MMO. And I've played tons of MMOs previously, but that is something that jarred me. Was I got everything all at once, never played the game before, and it was really, really overwhelming. And I played around for like an hour, 2 hours, and then I stopped playing. And every now and again, I'd like jump back into it and see if I'd like it, and I didn't ever. And so I'm sure that's a situation that LSS wants to avoid with this deck. They don't want to give people a $40 deck that's got a bunch of cards that synergize really, really well to the point where it's just way too much deep thinking, because this is not meant for winning worlds. A KO Armory deck is not going to win worlds. A KO Armory deck is lucky enough to win a Pro Quest, let alone an Armory, right? But that's where we then move into our next topic, which is competitive viability. Competitive viability, this is all subjective. Competitive, the term being competitive, which is you're trying your best to win at an event. You're trying to be competitive at an event. Not casual, like I'm just going to hang out and like if I win, I win, I lose, I lose. Competitive means you're trying your best to learn to win. These decks are meant to be competitive. Now, competitive could mean that you were lucky enough to go 2-2. But what competition does is it makes you stronger. So when you go into an armory and you go 1-3, if you get 1-3 into an armory and you want to win your armory next time, your competitive nature is going to go, hey, what do I do to get this deck to be better so that I can continue to have more powerful turns while keeping the same theme of the deck? That's when you as an established player get to go, hey, there are these cards called Bloodrush Bellows and Beast Within and Send Packing and Cast Bones and all these other cards that exist in the game that you can get. I might have some in my trade binder if you wanted to do that. Or maybe you're playing at the kitchen table and you just wanted to play around with some stuff that might possibly be like those cards. There's tons of different ways to upgrade this deck to make it incredibly viable, right? To make it incredibly competitive. But the deck is meant for armories. Let me say that again. Very, very clear. The deck is meant for armories. And while there are a lot of people who exist to grind armories for XP and for cold foils, and I understand that that is a concept in a lot of places, that there are just armory grinders who are just looking to pull cold foils and promos and get store credit, and then that's how they're making their living on Flesh and Blood. This is not by any means a deterrent for new players to go, oh, I don't know if I should try this game because, Tommy over there has won every armory in the past 3 months because he's the only one here with enough money to afford all the legendaries for his deck. The competitive viability of this deck is still very, very good. It's just not as good as Daniel Correas's PT top 8 Kayo deck. And that's okay because it's not meant to do that. I don't think you could hand a new player a top 8 deck and go, here, pilot this. They wouldn't know how. They would have no idea how. I don't even think an established TCG player, somebody who's been playing TCGs for a while, would be able to do something like that. You need a place to start, and that's where this deck comes in. That comes into our final topic, which is making players comfortable. Okay? We, as community members, have a goal, which is to have this game thrive. We love this game. We want this game to continue to be really, really good and to continue to get awesome support, new heroes, new hype things. Collectors are able to do collecting things. Players are able to do player things. Casuals, competitive players. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But there is an issue when it comes down to people being negative, especially towards beginner-focused product. Beginner-focused product having a negative light makes new players look at this product through your eyes of an established player and go, wow, this is bad. Maybe I shouldn't be playing this game, because it means now that we're back all the way to like last year when we were talking about the entry point into Flesh and Blood and what it costs to get into the game. And before, there was no way for people to spend $40 and get a fairly viable deck. And you could make it happen with some heroes, but even still, those heroes are usually like that because they're not big into the meta, so on and so forth. This is a very popular meta deck. Not to mention the fact that all of these decks have a limited, I shouldn't say limited quantities. They're going to have a low amount of quantity, I'd imagine, but I don't think it's going to be a lot more than, it's not going to be like 10,000. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there's enough to go around, but if there is a gripe I do have with this, it's that stores that do not have a big armory population are not getting these, they're not getting these armory decks, which feels bad because they're are ways to grow your Armory scene with these decks, but instead they're getting allocated towards shops that are getting a pretty big Armory scene. So I feel like it's a little skewed there sometimes, but I just wanted to make sure to note that this product is, again, for new players. And if I, an established player, saw a new player with light in their eyes, ready to play Flesh and Blood for the first time, and I told them, don't go buy that starter deck. Why not? Because that starter deck is bad. What are they going to think? Right? And if every one of these Armory decks that come out previous to this, what are they going to think when we start going, yeah, no, these decks are bad. Like, you could buy better decks online and so on. So, like, you're not, the established player is not providing these decks to another player. If you are, great, right? That's how you grow a community, is you self-sacrifice your own, bulk and other things to make decks for players so that they can get into armories without having to worry about spending a ton of money. Just like LSS just did with these Armory decks. But a lot of people are immediately going, well, this $40 deck is not Daniel Correas's PT Top 8 deck. So because it isn't, I don't think anybody should buy it. Like, I can't tell people to buy this. Whereas I can, and I gladly will. $40, you get an insanely powerful chess piece. You get new equipment. All your equipment is really, really good in the set. You have new main deck pieces. And a lot of that main deck, even though it's like 54 cards or bulk, you still have 54 cards now that you can utilize towards a Kayo deck. So you can swap out cards, add in new ones as you grow with the game. Kayo's a brand new hero, and while he's excelling to the Living Legend, he's excelling up the ranks in the Living Legend points. I don't think that he's going to hit Living Legend immediately, and I think it's going to be enough for where people are still going to have some time to build, especially with Part the Mistveil coming out, and you're going to have a bunch of new heroes entering the fray, and these heroes are probably going to maybe even be stronger than KO, and people who are going to be on KO are going to want to switch, yada yada. It's all up in the air. But that's just kind of what I wanted to touch on, was why I think this deck is a good thing for new players. That's what it's meant to be for. It's meant to teach people how to play KO. It's meant to not be extremely overwhelming by giving people a 20 card sideboard and a whole bunch, like a primer that has your lists of every single matchup to date and telling you what you need to put in and what you don't. I'd say the only thing that might be an issue is the allocation and the fact that you have nothing in regards to Arcane Barrier. But if an established player is the one telling you, hey, go buy this deck, you can go check it out, established players should also be telling them, while you're up there, go pick up a Null Rune Gloves. Because if they have a Null Rune Gloves, they'll probably give it to you. Or some people just have extra Null Rune Gloves. I've seen it. They just have an extra Null Rune on their hands. Just give it to them. Because then they don't have to worry about it. Then when they run into a wizard or a Rune Blade, they don't have to go, I don't know how this works. And you can explain it to them, right? It's as simple as that. I think the deck is in a good spot. I think every future Armory deck is going to continue to have really powerful cards inside of it in regards to the new exclusive prints. And I really can't wait to see what the Armory decks have in store for the rest of the Flesh and Blood community. If you guys out there are also looking to pick up some of these Armory decks, make sure to go ahead and check out your LGS. Some places might have them, some people might not. But if you're looking to get into Flesh and Blood, you're brand new, you've been checking out my channel for a while, and you're trying to get in, and Clash might not be for you, or Commoner might not be for you, and you really want to play into Classic Constructed, don't listen to all the naysayers, all right? Go spend $40, go buy this deck, and learn how to play. And if it's not your style, you at least have an insanely powerful couple of Brute cards to where if you ever do want to play Brute in the future, you have entire playsets of those cards, and you can just slot them in to whatever future Brute deck you ever want to play. But there are more Armory decks soon to be released this year, so don't think that you only can play Brute. There's a Bolton just got announced, Light Warrior, soon to be released in June, I believe. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And again, make sure to just keep having fun in the Flesh and Blood. That's what it's all about. If you're new to the game, don't get discouraged by losing. Don't get overconfident by winning. Learn to play the game. Learn what hero fits your playstyle best. And then tack on to that, right? Learn new things from that. Because if you decide to stray from that path and just worry strictly about value or strictly about these things, you'll never get to learn your hero. If I handed you a $900 deck tomorrow and you're brand new to Flesh and Blood, you're not going to learn how to play the game. It's going to be very overwhelming, and you're probably not going to have a good time because you know that if you were going to have to play the same deck ever again, you're going to need to spend $900. Whereas here you have a nice $40 deck that suits everybody's needs if you're learning to play Flesh and Blood. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate your support. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already, and then let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the new Armory deck. Maybe you're excited for a future hero. I'd love to see what kind of heroes you guys think Armory decks are going to be made out of. And let me know what you think. I love having discussion about the new products, especially beginner-friendly products. So if that's something that you are a fan of, let me know. I'd love to chit-chat with you. But otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Please make sure to have a ton of fun in the Flesh and Blood. And I will see you all very soon. Nerd out.